The hangar doors groaned as they opened, sunlight spilling over rows of polished steel. Naval Air Station Coronado was in full motion, sailors marching, aircraft roaring, officers barking orders. But all of it seemed to pause when Lieutenant Commander Sarah Valkyrie Kane walked across the tarmac. Sarah was no stranger to the base. She had flown F-22 Raptors in combat zones most of the pilots here had only seen on simulation screens. Her call sign, Valkyrie, wasn't just earned. It was legend. But today, she wasn't here to fly. She was here to meet an admiral who had already made it clear she wasn't welcome. "Lieutenant Commander Kane!" barked Rear Admiral Preston, striding toward her with 2 MPs at his side. His face was carved from stone, his voice clipped and sharp. "You have no clearance to be here. This is an active operation zone." Sarah didn't flinch. "My clearance is above your pay grade, sir," she said evenly, holding out a set of sealed orders. Preston didn't take them. "You are not cleared for this briefing. Turn around and leave my base, now, or I will have you removed." Sarah stood still, her jaw tight. For a moment, there was silence between them, the kind of silence that feels like a fuse about to burn down. Around them, sailors slowed their steps, curious, sensing something bigger than a routine dispute. Then Preston gestured to the MPs. "Escort her out." The MPs moved toward her, hands on their belts. Sarah's fingers brushed against the patch on her flight suit, her call sign stitched in bold white letters. Valkyrie. She took a single step forward. "Admiral," she said, her voice like steel, "you might want to check who you're throwing off your base before you embarrass yourself." Preston's expression hardened. "That's an order, Lieutenant Commander." Sarah reached into her jacket and produced a slim black kesta, the kind that only a handful of people in the entire military ever carried. She flipped it open with one smooth motion. Inside was her classified operations card, engraved with the insignia of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. But what caught Preston's eye wasn't the card, it was the insignia beneath it. A patch bearing the emblem of Task Force Trident, the Joint Spec Ops unit that coordinated Black Ops missions for Navy SEALs, Delta Force, and Special Aviation Wings. The air seemed to shift. "You flew Operation Spectre," one of the SEALs standing nearby murmured, under his breath. The words spread like electricity. Every man and woman within earshot straightened. Some of the older SEALs, grizzled veterans who had seen everything, gave her a look that wasn't curiosity. It was respect. Preston's jaw worked as he processed what he was seeing. Task Force Trident was above his direct command. Anyone carrying that patch wasn't just a pilot. They were the pilot. "You're Valkyrie," a SEAL finally said aloud. Sarah gave a single nod. And then it happened. Every SEAL in the hangar stopped what they were doing and snapped to attention, saluting her in unison. The noise of the base, quieted until the only sound was the flags flapping in the wind. Preston stood frozen, his outstretched hand faltering as he realized he had just tried to throw out the woman who had flown cover on missions. That saved his own operators. Rear Admiral Preston's face turned crimson, but it wasn't anger anymore, and it was the creeping realization that he had just crossed the wrong person. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words died in his throat. "Do you even know what my call sign means, Admiral?" Sarah asked, her tone calm but sharp enough to cut glass. "Do you know how many men I brought home under it?" Preston didn't answer. Around them, the SEALs were still frozen in salute, a silent wall of respect and intimidation. The younger sailors stared wide-eyed, their curiosity growing by the second. The atmosphere in the hangar had shifted entirely. Preston wasn't the one in command anymore. Sarah stepped closer until there were only inches between them. "You think throwing me off base makes you look powerful? But it just made you look like a fool in front of every operator who's ever trusted me with their lives. You're lucky. I still care about this mission enough to keep my focus where it belongs." Preston's jaw clenched. "Lieutenant Commander?" Sarah's voice rose a fraction, enough for everyone to hear. "It's Commander Admiral. Field promotion. Task Force Trident." There was an audible stir in the crowd. Preston's eyes widened. A field promotion, confirmed by Trident, outranked him operationally, at least within Black Ops jurisdiction. "You should be thanking me for showing up today," Sarah continued, her tone now laced with steel. "Because if I hadn't, your men would be walking into a mission blind. And we both know how that ends." The base loudspeakers crackled again. "Priority notice. Task Force Trident. Valkyrie is cleared for immediate mission brief. All SEAL teams report to Hangar 2. The timing couldn't have been better." Sarah turned on her heel, her boots echoing against the concrete, and walked past Preston without so much as a glance. Rourke and half the SEAL team broke formation and fell in behind, her like a silent honor guard. Preston stood rooted to the spot, every eye in the hangar fixed on him. For the first time in his career, he wasn't the most powerful man in the room, and he knew it. Rourke paused on his way out. "You owe her more than an apology, Admiral. Men like me breathe because of her flying. Don't forget that." The Admiral didn't respond. The weight of the SEAL's words hit, harder than any reprimand from a superior officer. Preston had just been humiliated, but worse, he had been reminded that there were warriors out there who answered to something far greater than his rank, and Valkyrie was one of them. The doors to Hangar 2 opened, revealing a scene that looked more like a war council than a routine briefing. Large digital displays covered one wall, flashing with satellite imagery and intel overlays. Generals, colonels, and operations specialists stood in tense conversation until Sarah entered. She didn't wait for permission to speak. "Status?" A colonel stepped forward, almost relieved to see her. "Commander Kane, we've confirmed HVT movement in the coastal sector. Window of opportunity is narrowing to less than 48 hours. Sarah nodded, already pulling up data on her secure tablet. She synced it to the war table with a tap, and the screens updated with real-time visuals. "We're going in tonight," she said firmly. "Raptor coverage with precision strikes. My wingman is inbound from Edwards as we speak. Call signs Valkyrie and Fenrir will be airborne by 0300. SEAL teams. Alpha through Delta will be on the ground by 0315. Extraction window is 20 minutes. The room was silent for a moment, then erupted into motion. Officers making calls, analysts updating feeds, team leaders grabbing gear. Preston entered quietly, taking a spot near the back. He didn't interrupt. He just watched as Sarah commanded. The room with a presence that even he had to admit was magnetic. "You will provide full logistical support," Sarah said without turning around. "Fuel, comms, armaments. No delays, no excuses." "Yes, ma'am," Preston said automatically, the words tasting strange in his mouth. Sarah finally turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "Good, then we understand each other." For a brief moment, there was silence. Then Rourke stepped forward. "Commander," he said, "the boys wanted you to know something." He motioned toward the hangar entrance. One by one, the SEALs filed in, forming two long lines that flanked her path. As Sarah walked between them, every single one of them snapped a salute. Not because protocol demanded it, but because respect did. Preston watched from the back, realizing that he had just witnessed something that went beyond rank or regulation. This wasn't a chain of command. This was loyalty, forged in blood and battle. Sarah stopped at the hangar door, turned, and gave the SEALs a sharp nod. "See you all on the ground," she said. Then she climbed into her F-22, the canopy lowered with a hiss, sealing her inside the cockpit. The engines roared to life, their thunder shaking the earth. As the Raptor taxied to the runway, Preston found himself at rigid attention, an involuntary salute rising to his brow. For the first time, he wasn't saluting the rank. He was saluting the legend. When Valkyrie took off, she wasn't just a pilot heading into another mission. She was the storm every enemy feared was coming. And this time, she was bringing the entire base with her.